Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I'm Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Hey, for those of you who geek out here all the time, one, thank you very much. Number two, you will know that when a state is joining the Civilian Disarmament Club, I will oftentimes say, welcome to the gates of hell. But some states have actually been living in a state of purgatory like that for decades. And we're going to talk about a state, tactically it's New Jersey, where we have an amicus brief now filed on another matter before the United States Supreme Court that really gives us a perspective that a lot of us should be aware of, because if you're not careful about what happens in your state, well, you can end up looking like New Jersey too. So today, let's get you all educated and let's talk about the brief that shows us what it's like in the depths of hell. Okay, America, we are talking about yet another amicus brief that's been filed in the matter of Wolford v. Lopez, a case that is now set for oral arguments January 20th before the United States Supreme Court. We're not even going to get into that issue. We have beaten that issue like a dead horse. What we are going to talk about, though, is a really fascinating amicus brief that has been filed by the good folks over at the Association of New Jersey Rifle and Pistol Clubs Incorporated. And what this brief really does is it gives us the perspective of, hey, listen, Supreme Court, if you don't step in and start doing something about this insanity, there's a lot of states that could end up looking like New Jersey, and that's not a good thing. Now, I want to make something perfectly clear. When I'm talking about New Jersey in derogatory terms, I'm talking about your gun laws, I'm talking about your state government. The people I've had a chance to meet out there, Joe Laporto, John Petrolino, Mayor Daniel Francisco, fantastic people, New Jersey. You guys, much like Illinois, great people with a really rotten state government. Here's where the amicus party comes from on this case. The petition should be granted because unconstitutional prohibitions on the fundamental right to carry a handgun for self-defense, including the private property rule at issue in this matter, exist in multiple states. Granting the petition would broadly vindicate the fundamental right to keep and bear arms throughout the nation. This is particularly so for New Jerseyans who have lived under perhaps the most aggressive of such rights-violating regimes. That is very, very true. And of course, New Jersey is one of those states that literally threw a big middle finger to the United States Supreme Court following its ruling in Bruin and went out and passed what? That's right, a Bruin response bill, which we'll circle back on in a moment. Now, the amicus party goes on to further plead in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Bruin. This court put an end to the notion that states could broadly suppress the fundamental right to carry a handgun for lawful purposes such as self-defense. The court made clear that, by default, the people have a fundamental right to carry handguns and that they have the right to do so in most places and under most circumstances. That is, public carry of handguns is the rule, not the exception. But as mentioned previously, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, Illinois, California, they all got together, along with Hawaii, collectively crapped their pants and said, we're going to write Bruin response bills. We're going to write legislation that is literally a workaround of Supreme Court precedent, leading the amicus party here to point out, immediately following the court's June 23, 2020 ruling in Bruin, the very states whose unconstitutional carry prohibitions had just been stricken raged in open defiance of this court. Importantly, the Hawaii law at issue in the petition is not alone in its total affront to the fundamental right to carry recognized in Bruin. Rather, it is part of a comprehensive and coordinated assault on this court's historic ruling. Now, I want you to think about that for a second, okay? Because some of you may recall the case of Obergefell v. Hodges, and you're sitting there going, no, I've never heard of Obergefell v. Hodges. Yes, you have. That was the United States Supreme Court case that ruled that homosexual marriage was constitutional. Now, undoubtedly, there were court clerks and there were jurisdictions around the country who vehemently disagreed with that ruling. Yet, what did they do the very next day after that ruling came down? What did all those court clerks start doing? Yeah, they started issuing marriage licenses to same-sex couples. But when it comes to the Second Amendment in blue states, oh, no, they can't respect the rule of law. They can preach about the rule of law all they want, but they never, ever really want to follow it. And that led the amicus party to wisely point out, in rapid succession, 5 states, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, Hawaii, and California, enacted Bruin attack laws which overtly sought to nullify this court's ruling in Bruin and the fundamental right to carry a handgun in public for self-defense. The states are simply not getting the message, and until this court squarely takes up this issue, the defiance will continue. And in many ways, this goes way, way beyond our Second Amendment rights. This has to do with the very rule of law, the very foundations upon which our constitutional republic is intended to function on. And as the Amicus Party points out, what all of these laws share in common is that they very clearly target for destruction Bruin's holding that states may not materially impair the right to carry a handgun in public, and they do so in not coincidentally copycat ways. For example, they all share the private property rule that is the subject of the petition. We hear all the time that we are in the midst of constitutional crises. Most of that is completely overblown. But there is a 5-state Supreme Court mutiny completely underway here in the United States, and it is these 5 states subject to the discussion in this amicus brief. But ultimately, if the Supreme Court doesn't stop this insanity, then there are many, many other states, most of which are on this list right here, and some that may make it to the list soon, that could literally end up in the exact depths of hell that New Jersey residents currently find themselves in, leading the Amicus Party to plead, New Jersey's Bruin attack law is almost certainly the worst, uniquely also prohibiting carry in one's car and compelling the purchase of costly liability insurance, for example. In this way, Amicus Curiae NAGRPC seeks to bring to the court's attention just how bad these infringements can get if the court does not take up this issue. For these reasons, the petition should be granted. And really, America, if you do want to see just how bad it can get, just how far removed an individual can actually be taken by their state government away from their inalienable, God-given Second Amendment right of self-preservation, one need not look any further than New Jersey, or New York, or Maryland, or California, or Hawaii. And there are many other states rapidly competing to try to get on that list as well. Okay, the case once again is Wolford v. Lopez. The amicus brief that we talked about again was once again authored by the Association of New Jersey Rifle and Pistol Clubs Incorporated. That amicus brief is linked up down below so you can geek out on it for yourself. Remember, Wolford v. Lopez is set for oral argument January 20th. Okay, now if you have any other questions about this or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights, which in New Jersey is this close to nothing, you guys should know how to get a hold of Washington gun law by now, but if you don't, that's okay. That information is down in the description box. If you got an idea for a video we should be doing around here, cool. Click on that link right there. Tell us all about it. If you want to subscribe to the monthly newsletter, the information on how to do that is down there in the description box. And then finally, and most importantly, let's everyone remember that part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching and stay safe.